Dice Company contains fantasy violence, mature themes, and unapologetic bickering. No feelings were hurt in the making of it, but listener discretion is advised. Dice Company will always be free, but it's not free to make. Please consider supporting us on Patreon or Apple Podcasts and get access to our weekly roundtable show Extra Roll. Just follow any of the links in the show notes for this chapter.
No one sings of heroes anymore. At least that's how the old stories used to end. In blood, silence, forgetfulness. But perhaps, somewhere in the back alleys, between the half-spoken wagers and the crack of fist on flesh, the tune is starting to change. Perhaps the next song doesn't begin with a nobleman on a white horse. Perhaps it starts with sweat on stone, boots in mud, and a broken man standing up one last time. In the shadow of the Empire, sometimes, if you listen closely, you can almost hear it. A song on the wind. Rough, ragged, real. A hero's melody rising from the pit. Welcome one and all to Dice Company, where a group of friends weave tales of triumph, heroism and despair under the guise of playing Dungeons and Dragons. My name is Tom and I'll be your DM through the continuing adventures of this party of nightmare-fueled madmen. Nightmare-fueled madmen, please introduce yourselves and tell the audience one fun fact about your characters.
Hi, I'm Harry and I'm playing Tock, a 6'8" automaton. My fact is, automatons do not sleep. Even magic can't put them to sleep. As such, Tock has recently experienced his very first dream. So, given reasonable estimates for the population of Alestia, distribution and number of sentient automata, occurrence rate of Rojan reckonings, the possibility that Tock is the first artificial life form ever to dream is found to be within reasonable bounds. It is an experience that has inspired both great curiosity and also great alarm.
Alarm.
Right, shut it down. No one's stopping that.
Man.
I wrote that down at 2 a.m. last night. I was like, I've got to...
Yes.
That's not even a punch line. That's a punch word. That's beautiful.
Goodness me. Absolutely phenomenal.
Hello, I'm Charlie. I play Vander Finnick, and my fun fact about Vander this week takes us back to his time, unfortunately, in his tortured years. During his time being tortured, Vander did break as a human in the torture chambers where he existed for a time. There were rules, and one of them was no speaking, so you couldn't converse with other prisoners. In one of his darkest moments, though, a hand reached through the cell next door. You couldn't see the owner of the hand, but he was able to grip the hand, and this simple gesture of human kindness sustained him at one of the darkest moments in his life. He now remembers that hand as being one of the greatest friends he's ever known for the comfort it provided him, but he never got the name of the person, only the ring on the hand, and on that ring was the insignia of a heron.
That was really lovely.
And you were worried about following my...
My God.
Mine was spontaneous. Yours is deep. And actually, you know what? I'm in danger of praising you. I'm gonna cut it down. So I'm done.
It is an abusive circle of friends.
Vander has never noticed that he wears a heron ring on his own left hand.
I am my own best friend.
The circle is complete.
I am Alex and I'm playing Augustus. When Augustus was 16, he was sent away from his native Denothlia to the northern realm of Lumatorn for education. He excelled there and made lots of friends and was enjoying life away from his parents and his family as a rebellious teenager. But due to a change of circumstances back home that was unknown to Augustus at the time, Denothlian guards arrived in his dormitory in the middle of the night and essentially kidnapped him and took him under guard home.
Very nice. I like it. It's good. It's kind of
Nice.
lore and interesting and developing the world in which you're existing.
I'm a little bit disappointed that the fourth wall didn't take another pasting.
Hello, I am Dave, and I am playing Benny Quez. And Benny doesn't have a lot of possessions. He's not someone who's ever owned a great deal of material objects. But one item he does own and has always owned and can't quite remember where it's come from. But he has an old bronze ring with a green stone in it. Alas, it does not have a heron insignia. He's always had this ring, and somehow whenever time's been really tight and he's been pawning stuff off, he's always managed to find a way to not get rid of it. And when he's nervous, he twists it in his hand and kind of toys with it.
I like it. I like the fake out that it might have had a heron emblem on it and then didn't. Oh, well, there we go. Let's get on with the next chapter of Dice Company. We left off last time with everyone aboard the Sterling having their own minds turned against them by Benny. Experiencing their worst nightmares, it wasn't until Benny began to fight back that they were freed from the mental assault. Gathering around Benny's bed while he fought for his life, Vander recognized the strange fits as the Reckoning, something which all new Rojans have to go through before they start their training. After a ribbon of blue energy burst from Benny, he awoke to the smiling faces of his crewmates. Confused and angry about the attention, he kicked them out of his room to gather his thoughts. A week has passed. During that time, the torrential weather has given way to clear blue skies and pleasant warmth. Benny has done everything in his power to avoid Vander, locking himself in his room and poring over his books, only leaving to gather food supplies from Rosalind and taking Lenny for walks. Vander has been slow on taking the hint, leaving books about the Rojan outside Benny's door. But as the week has progressed, he's taken the hint finally and has switched his focus to overseeing the repairs to the Sterling. Tock has been locked away in his workshop most days, leaving the rest of the crew to listen to the bangs and crashes coming from within, only appearing to spend the occasional night watching the stars. Augustus has been writing in his journal, puzzling over his small stone, and trekking outside to sleep in a tent of an evening, for fear of more nightmares. Despite a couple of nights of minor nightmares, they do not appear to have happened since. On the morning of the 11th of Gladden, 9 days before the summer solstice, Benny receives a knock at the door, followed by the familiar voice of Augustus.
Benny, are you awake?
Yep, I'm awake. What can I do you for?
Sorry to disturb. I have a small matter I'd like to discuss with the crew.
You want me to come somewhere, or what's going on?
I believe the poop deck is the traditional place.
All right, yeah, all right, I'll meet you there.
Yes, thank you, Benny.
No problem.
Knock, knock.
Enter.
Hello, Vander.
Augustus.
Vander, I'm gathering the crew. I have a matter I wish to discuss.
Vander looks up from the maps he's been poring over.
Certainly, I assume this will take place on the poop deck.
100%, yeah.
I'll get my cane.
Wonderful. Knock, knock, Tock.
Tock's not going to open the door, but you'll hear him say, the door is unfastened.
Augustus walks in and says, Tock, I wonder if I might borrow a moment of your time, and then immediately realizes that that's not how you should speak to Tock. Sorry, Tock. Tock, would you mind joining us on the poop deck? I have a matter I wish to discuss with the crew.
Indeed, although I am at a critical juncture.
That's all right, my dear fellow. Take a moment, and when a good moment presents itself, do join us.
I find it appropriate that you are present for this. I do not know why. I lack sufficient data. As Augustus is looking into the room, you can see that Tick, his duplicate, is standing on one side. The whole body, the whole automaton is out. It's in like a harness, so it's being sort of suspended on one side of the workshop. The reconstruction to his head looks basically complete. Standing next to him, with his back facing you, is the automaton Plex, who currently has his cranial plate open and his brain exposed. And Tock will say to Augustus, my preparations are complete. Only one placement of a crystal is left.
That sounds exciting, Tock. Why is Plex's head open? I fear you might incur Vander's considerable wrath were he to see this.
He is providing assistance. Vander agreed.
Are you merely copying, using it as a guide?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Tock punches Plex's open head.
Flex is providing assistance.
Of what sort?
As I investigate brain regions, he is providing critical feedback. It is crucial to the reconstruction. Tock will demonstrate. He'll walk over to Plex, and he's taking out a very fine tool, which he inserts into Plex's sort of cranial cavity and makes a small adjustment. And we'll say to Plex, which memory location does this affect?
His right arm will begin to shake. Long-term memories.
Well, this looks like something I don't want to be caught witnessing. Tock, well, when you reach a suitable stop, I'm very excited to meet Tick if he's about to join us. However, when you reach a suitable stopping point, please do join us on the poop deck.
Indeed.
And then Augustus scuttles away so Vander doesn't catch him here.
As he's leaving, Tock will say, I estimate 5 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you, Tock.
So, Augustus, you head back to the poop deck where Vander and Benny and Lenny have already gathered. It's a nice sunny morning, and as you step onto the poop deck, you can hear the cawing of a raven who is sat atop the main stick.
Gentlemen, sorry to keep you waiting, but Tock tells me he will be about 5 minutes before he joins us.
What are we doing then, Augustus? Have we been insufficiently deferential and you want to bring it to the crew's attention or something like that?
That wasn't what I intended to discuss, but actually now you mention it, I have a series of comments on that front.
Oh, Benny, how are you?
Vander coos.
Very well, thanks, Vander. Just as well as I was when you knocked on my door this morning, and just as well as I was when you knocked on my door last night, and just as well as I was when you knocked on my door the morning before that. I am
Healthy,
fine.
good. No more night terrors, I take it.
No, all well, thank you.
I've been thinking of some nicknames for you.
Oh, yeah?
How do you feel about...
Oh, no, sorry. When I say, oh, yeah, that was just a instinctively polite. I don't actually want to hear them, sorry.
Not the right time, I quite understand.
No, never will be.
Vander grins toothily, assuming that this will be ingratiating. I say toothily, I mean that's wild exaggeration. Yeah. All 3 teeth are on display.
The full length of all 3 teeth are there. 100% tooth.
What a delight.
Yeah, after 5 minutes or so, Tock will walk onto the poop deck, followed by an identical copy of Tock. As he walks in, he will say, crewmates, this is Tick. Tick, these are Augustus, Vander, and Benny, and Lenny the dog.
Oh my, by the gods.
Tick raises a hand.
Try to catch the eye of the other shipmate to see what everyone's response is.
Vander's face reads a mixed emotion there of glee and apprehension in a sense, yeah.
Augustus is flat stunned. He'd sort of begun to assume that Tick was just staying in the bag forever. And also, even in that conversation before, his mind was elsewhere. And now he's confronted with Tick. He has no idea what to make of it.
Vander will hobble forward
A pleasure to meet you, Tick.
and extends a gnarled hand.
Tick grabs your hand and squeezes it incredibly powerfully.
Vander stiffens.
And he nods his head curtly.
I gently try to extract my hand.
He doesn't let go.
Tock will intervene and say, caution, Tick. That one is injured. You must be gentle.
Tick looks at Tock and lets go, and then, in a kind of show of apology, heavily pats Vander on the arm.
Vander, have I fallen over, or am I?
No, you stagger slightly to one side under the impact of the hit.
I look at my hand to check that it's still there.
It is still there. It's very red, though, and very sore.
That's quite the handshake you have there, Tick. Maybe not do that again.
Tick looks at Tock.
Tock looks confused.
So, Tock, do we need to kind of introduce ourselves to Tick? Have you told Tick about us, or does Tick somehow have your memories so he knows what we've kind of been up to? How does it work?
Tick is a separate individual. He does not possess my memories. I have introduced you to Tick. He has insufficient data.
Yeah, insufficient data covers it pretty well, doesn't it? Anyway, hiya, Tick. Nice to meet you. I'm Benny. I won't shake your hand because it looks like it hurts, but you know, hiya.
Tock, am I to assume that Tick, being the teacher of the pair of you, does himself have those memories still?
I have insufficient data. The healing process, it will take some time for new circuits to regrow within his brain.
Regrow, Vander says questioningly.
Indeed. It is not a process that I have experience of. I believe it will take some time.
And Tick has the same physicality as yourself, I understand? Same strength, the same sentience?
Indeed, I am an exact, given approximations of small errors. I am an exact copy of Tick.
Interesting, says Vander, backing away a little, making sure he's outside of Tick's fighting arc.
Does Tick have the same personality as you?
Negative. He has a distinct personality.
So you're just an exact copy physically, not in every way.
Indeed.
Okay.
Tick puts one thumb up.
Should we assume, Tock, that Tick does not speak?
He has not spoken yet. Speech was a capability previously before the damage. It will be a capability once he has regrown.
I believe the question of what makes Tick is still a fairly open one.
Indeed, there are many unknowns in the process. Augustus, I believe you summoned me here for a reason.
Yes, that's correct, Tock. My timing now seems somewhat odd in light of the momentous return of Tick.
Oh, please, Augustus, why are we here?
Another deep philosophical question along with what makes Tick tick. Gentlemen, it is traditional in people of my order and class, looks at Benny,
Ooh la la.
to take an oath at a certain point between the end of childhood and the beginning of adulthood. Now, I'm somewhat late to do that, but until this point in my life, it has not felt clear to me what oath to take, what path to take. And though I've often expressed my reservations about each of you, except not you, Tock, but obviously in your company and on our adventures, I begin to see the path before me for the first time. And so I wish to take my oath. And if you'll permit me, I wish you all to witness it.
I find that to be acceptable.
Momentous occasion.
Summons Otis and whispers into his ear before asking Otis to scuttle off.
Does Vander want to be out of his head for this?
Yes, Vander.
Bring me my, I don't know what culture's robes.
It's a big day all around. So, what does this entail then, Augustus? What you got to do?
I merely have to speak the words. However, I feel it would be better to have my feet on solid ground. And I see a rock down there on the shoreline, which would be a good place for me to stand and speak the words.
All right. Is there more ceremony to it, or are we just off?
I think we're off. Perhaps in a different place, in a different time, there would be far more ceremony. However, given our circumstances, it seems best simply to deliver the oath and then go about upholding it.
And just out of curiosity, what is the path that you see before you that's become a bit clearer? Because it's pretty foggy to me, and I'm curious.
Well, Benny, I came to this continent on a mission of information, but also, depending on what I found, with certain priorities in mind. However, as I say, I've been late to make the jump in the stages of life that I described to Vander between boyhood and becoming the idealistic young man. But now, in light of our experiences and indeed of your reckoning, if Vander's understanding of that situation is correct.
Well, let's not assume that.
However, Vander does seem to be someone who might know whether that is or is not correct. In light of all that, I think I see what my oath must be, and in the words of the oath, you will discover a little more.
I chuckle and say, you know what, Augustus? I knew you weren't in that warehouse looking for a fine wine.
Fine wine as well, perhaps. I'm always looking for a fine wine, Benny.
Yeah, I think you might have come to the wrong place.
Yes, I feel like we've sailed consistently away from fine wines.
Vander has scuttled off to his abode momentarily.
Oh, I've got some lovely soup, so it all balances itself out.
Augustus, somewhat sheepishly, feeling that the moment has been not sullied, but the morning hasn't gone quite as he expected, with the revelation of Tick and Vander going off to dress as some sort of chieftain. Augustus strides down the ramp and goes to the rock that he selected, but doesn't climb onto it yet because he wants the assembled adoring masses ready before he does.
Tock and Tick will both follow along and wait at the base of the rock.
Yeah, Benny's coming too. Quite curious about the whole thing.
Is Lenny coming?
No, in a surprising conciliatory gesture, Benny tells Lenny to stay on the ship.
So Lenny's not lying in your room with his brain open, having been experimented on in some. Just wondering if there's a theme.
Barking, and suddenly we realise we don't know where Lenny is.
Vander reemerges from his cabin. He is in full ceremonial robes and makes his scuttles, essentially, down the gangway. Otis appears, and Vander says, "No, not the pipes. The French horn! Of course the French horn! Perplex, 2 horns." And then wanders down to the ceremonial site.
Yes, Vander.
Vander's taken on a very regal air.
Oh, Augustus, charmed.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Vander.
A pleasure. What an occasion this is.
Augustus actually removes his fine jacket, so he's wearing a simple shirt and trousers, and he ascends the rock.
I want to say Vander does an aside to Benny.
Fashion-wise, a mistake, I believe.
Augustus stands on the rock and looks over the heads of the crowd, assuming even with the rock's help he can look over Tick and Tock's heads.
And with Augustus on the rock, his eyes on his friends, he holds the stone in his hand and then looks up to the heavens to begin his oath.
I vow to make good the wrongs of the past. Donothlia failed in the war with Salazar, leaving millions to suffer under his rule. But our weakness ran far deeper. Like all decadent rulers, we arrogantly assumed the status quo would last forever. We saw the light, but too late. I come not to reclaim these lands, but to free them of the blight we brought upon them. By mighty Tyr, god of courage and self-sacrifice, I vow to rid Athlon of the Emperor Salazar and any who uphold him. By my hand, Donothlia will claim redemption, and a new day will dawn.
Having finished your oath, you feel a sudden warmth rising within you, and a bright light from above illuminates you. Unseen and unheard by your companions, a voice from the heavens speaks. Your oath is forged in the light of my grace. The path is set, and you will stop the tyranny of the champion of Kale, and above all else, protect those with whom you travel. It will not be easy. They will lead you down darkened paths, beset with darkened deeds. But you must learn to trust in them, understand them, and help those who you can, smite those you cannot. Through my divine majesty, you shall succeed. So arise now, Augustus, champion of Tyr.
For the moment, Vander frantically gestures for music to play at the culmination of the oath.
And Otis begins playing a French horn medley.
What a time to be alive, Benny,
says Vander kindly.
And as you say that, Vander, you look across the landscape and you see a figure running towards you. The figure is waving his hands in the air and shouting, but he's far enough that you can't quite make him out.
Gentlemen, to arms.
I gesture at the running figure still a distance off.
The figure gets closer and closer, and you begin to hear him shouting.
Mustang, help me!
Come join us, Scotty.
Oh my God!
Hello!
What a reveal! What a reveal!
Hello, boys.
Our first guest star. Please describe what the others see.
You see a large barrel-chested individual running across the plains at you. He's wearing half-plate armor, brown leather adventurer's clothing, and he has 2 swords, one across his left shoulder and one hanging at his left hip. And he is running full pelt towards you, being chased by mean and nasty bounders. And he shouts, I am Bardol Schultz.
I could be wrong, Benny.
Leans Vander.
That looks rather like Bardol Schultz, no?
I reckon you might be onto something there, Vander.
He is Bardol Schultz.
That's a classic Tockism.
Probably not time for the French horn, then.
I gesture at Otis.
Yes, Vander.
What instrument do you think would be appropriate for this? Some sort of chase music.
Behind the rather good-looking, long-haired and bearded gentleman who's charging towards you, calling for Mustang, you see a group of bounders led by a captain, being followed by what appears to be a bald woman in long black robes with tattoos across her face. Roll initiative.
Okay, Tock got a 21.
I have rolled my second -1 of the campaign.
Oh, I thought my 5 was bad.
Vander with a 12.
A natural 1 for initiative. So,
Wow.
having exhausted himself giving his oath, Augustus just melts like an overheated marshmallow into a puddle.
I was going to say, I feel like you may have sworn to the wrong god.
Yeah, I should have sworn to the god of still having bones.
Sworn allegiance to the god of tits and wine.
I didn't know that was an option.
I just rolled a 4.
Welcome aboard, you'll fit right in.
Tock, top of the round.
Tock is going to move to the front to make a defensive screen for the rest of the party, and Tick will follow.
Tock and Tick, moving in unison, surround Bardol Schultz and give him protection.
Tock and Tick will both draw swords, identical looking swords, and carry shields, and they're both going to prepare an attack for when the bounders approach the party.
The captain is going to run to there and he's going to draw 2 knives and he's going to throw one at Tock and one at Tick. First at Tock.
Okay, he will get disadvantage on the throw because Tick will interpose his shield in the way, protecting him using deflect attack.
16.
Is a miss. 19 would have been a hit though.
Brilliant. And now he's going to do throw the other one at Tick. 7.
That is definitely a miss.
I hate you
That's
so
not even
much.
on his shield, just wildly throws past it.
So he throws 2 knives, one at Tock, one at Tick, and Tick is able to move quickly to block the attack against Tock. You hear it clatter off of the shield. Nice defensive work by the new guy. The bald woman in black robes with face tattoos slowly walks forward and raises a hand towards Tock. Tock, can I have a wisdom saving throw, please?
I'd prefer if you didn't. Tock's going to use his inspiration on this one, since he's still got it, because I think this is probably not one I want to fail. A 2 and a natural 20.
As she raises her hands, 2 glowing handcuffs appear around your hands, and you look at them and they break and fall away. You see a flicker of irritation in her eyes.
Your magic is weak, Shadow Vanguard.
Hello.
That's right. Trash talk.
Time for that.
Fighting talk.
Like informative trash talk though. Like Augustus gets a little book out and writes the word Shadow Vanguard down.
The 3 bounders all rush to support their fellows, and they pull out light crossbows. And they aim them all at Tock. So the first fires, and it just misses over his shoulder. The second scuds into the ground before it reaches him, and the third flies way over his head over the entire party and off into the distance.
You idiots.
The woman says.
None of those were the gentlemen I was running from, by the way.
It's the scary one with the hood and the glowing tattoos.
Yes, the scary one with the face tattoos.
Augustus thinks he's going to like this guy.
Vander.
I'm going to hobble past Otis.
Stick by me, Otis.
As I make my way.
A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Schultz.
I leer
Don't mind me.
as I extend my hand past him and cast grease on the intersecting square between the 2 guards and the shadowed figure.
Nicely done.
I've played checkers before.
Okay, so the captain, 21. Stop it. The shadowy woman, 10. That's a fail. And the bog standard bounder, 7. Vander leans past Bardol and a glob of grease fires out of his hand into the area that intersects the three figures. The bald woman, so imposing and imperious as she walked towards them, flips and lands on her backside, as does one of the bounders. The captain, however, manages to maintain his footing. Bennyquez!
Seeing that the Shadow Vanguard is prone, Benny is going to take the opportunity to fire an arrow at her. It's going to be a poison arrow as well.
A poison. Oh, nice. You guys are lovely. It's just a shame she's awake, right?
25.
Is obviously a hit. Roll for damage.
So 9 piercing, plus a saving throw to avoid being pinned.
I'm sure this is going to go as well as the last one.
I'm not Dr. Sigmund, but I would describe that as very poisoned.
21. Benny draws a poisoned arrow. Oh, I need to do a constitution saving throw as well, don't I? That is a fail. So he needs to take poison damage as well.
3.
Okay, so Benny steps forward, drawing a poisoned arrow and letting rip at the shadowy woman. The arrow pierces her in the shoulder, and you see the black rose begin to sizzle away as the poison spreads around her body, and she shrieks in pain.
I'm going to hide behind this rock.
That is my oath stone.
I want to, just for the listeners, this is a barren landscape, and Benny has found the one piece of cover.
I don't know. A few people seem to be cowering behind Tock and Tick.
Yeah. Tock and Tick cowering shadows are
Rather
currently
alarming, aren't they?
occupied.
Bardol Schultz.
On seeing Vander firing the grease, Bardol turns to him and says, "I've seen this trick before, old man." And he lights up his finger with a firebolt and hurls it at the nearest bounder.
Nice.
Just to guarantee his success, he's far too wily to fire it at the face-tattooed ninja.
This is a warning to all minor villains everywhere.
14.
14 is a hit. Please roll for damage.
4 fire damage.
Nice. And can you also roll a d6 as well, please?
3.
Very nice. So after his little tete-a-tete with Vander, Bardol raises his hand and a mote of flame fires out between Tock and Tick, smashing into the prone bounder, and the grease laid by Vander suddenly erupts as flames lash around the captain and the shadowy woman, dealing damage to them as well. You hear the screams of the woman and the grunts of the captain. The bounder himself looks very, very unwell as he's laying down in greasy fire.
Vander turns, "Our fellow artist. How wonderful."
Any other actions, Bardol?
Yes, I do. Bardol says, "Let's not be a slouch and dive right in." At which point he draws both his swords, action surges, and dives at the closest bounder, who is...
Deeply unlucky.
Well, exactly.
Okie dokie.
And then he attacks with his sword, Day Song. 24.
Is a hit.
Oh my god.
Please roll for damage.
The sword got a name.
8 slashing damage.
You slash with your own sword across the bounder's chest.
My bonus action, second attack with my offhand longsword. 19.
Is a hit. Please roll for damage.
That is 6 slashing damage.
Bardol, please tell me the story of how you kill the bounder.
Pirouetting away from the defending adventurers, Bardol with a flourish slices with his main sword, eviscerating the guts of the bounder. With his offhand, he arcs up, sending his longsword through the neck of the bounder, who jiggles momentarily like a boned fish as Bardol pulls both blades away in a artistic flourish as guts and blood spill everywhere, and the dead body of the bounder falls with a thump and a squelch to the floor.
A showman, too.
Augustus.
Augustus is now going to revert to type, and he's going to bellow at the 4 people in front of him. "Stop this madness. Lay down your arms. You cannot win." Bearing in mind the oath he's just given, courage and self-sacrifice, he doesn't really want to take part in a slaughter at this point.
3 of the remaining combatants actually on fire. How persuasive are you?
Well, I'm thinking the fact they're on fire might persuade them on my behalf that their chances of this being a good day are relatively slight.
It is the worst thing that could happen to someone.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I could release the giant bees on them.
Give me a persuasion check at disadvantage. You know, they're not really paying attention to what you're saying. They're more concerned about being on fire.
They're being double scolded. Ouch.
That would be 9.
There's a lot of screaming coming from them. The captain, who's stood with his trousers on fire, kind of draws a sword and gives you a dirty look.
I wink at him to indicate that I feel his pain.
I think that's what people generally take from being winked at, isn't it? So I think that'll go down well.
Oh, this guy must have had his trousers on fire recently. That's what that wink means.
Welcome to the club.
Augustus has many winks. And if you saw them, you'd know what they meant. So shut up. It's been a big day for Augustus and people keep ruining it.
It's true. Actually, a lot of upstaging going on.
There is a lot of upstaging and Augustus is not going to stand for it. And so, Augustus is going to carry on trying to diffuse this incendiary situation by casting sleep in the direction of the Shadow Vanguard, because he thinks that if we can incapacitate the Shadow Vanguard, who might be quite badly injured here, so might have low hit points, we might be able to persuade the others to, basically fuck off.
I'm going to say that the fire has burnt through the grease really quickly. And so while there's kind of embers, you will be able to try and put her to sleep. It's 5d8.
23.
Unbelievably, that is exactly what you needed. And I mean to the exact amount of hit points she has left.
Augustus does that wink.
So, just to be clear, Augustus winks and she passes out.
Sometimes Augustus's machismo is so powerful that people just pass out.
I believe we call that a swoon, which is impressive considering she's already laying and partially on fire.
Yeah, given that she's a sort of evil empire villain covered in tattoos who's wearing robes trying to kill us and is on fire. The fact that I've been able to reach her with my charm is quite impressive.
Bardol notices the lady swooning, gazes over to Augustus and catches his eye and nods. Very good, old boy.
Augustus gives Bardol a wink. Winks are free today.
Second swoon. Bardol's down.
Bardol's down.
Don't make me start having winks as bonus actions. Tock.
Tock is going to go and approach the captain is going to go in front of Augustus, and Tick will follow and flank the bounder that has not been all greased up. I think they're both going to attack that poor bounder who's on the flank there.
Cool, give me attacks at advantage for both.
Making a mockery of my olive branch here, aren't you?
Beating them to death with your olive branch. Okay, Tock managed to roll a natural 20. So that's a crit.
Oh my god.
For the first time ever in combat, he's actually...
Please roll for damage. Tock's first ever critical hit.
A total of 19.
Tock, please tell me the story of how you kill the bounder.
As Tock's running towards the police captain, he just takes a swipe with his sword, like from underneath his shield, that as he's running past the bounder, just catches him in the throat. And Tock then squares off in front of the bounder captain whilst the bounder collapses. Tick is going to move around the other side of the police captain and attack him. Tick, with his own longsword, is going to attack, and he roll a 20.
Here's a hit. Please roll for damage.
And he rolls max damage, so that's 10 damage.
He's no Tock, is he? He's no Tock.
He's hit 100% of all of his shots. Tick skirts around and flanks the bounder captain, drawing the identical sword that he has and plunges it into the bounder's back. You hear him kind of exhale once in pain. The captain is going to retort by spinning on his heels to attack Tick. 13?
Is a miss.
And a 14.
Is just a miss.
So having stabbed the bounder captain, he spins on his heels and flashes twice at Tick, who blocks both times with his shield. The rest of you're used to watching Tock fight, so to see an identical copy of Tock fighting so effectively is a little bit jarring.
To Vander's eyes, Tock will seem to have maybe picked up a little bit on his training.
So the bounder stands up, brushes the grease and small or tiny bit of grease that's left, draws his bladed club and charges at Bardol. Vander.
It's uneven ground, so I'm going to get Otis to support me as I begin to walk forward. Help me along, Otis. And I'm going to take one step forward.
Yes, Vander.
Tock, use the stabbing motion.
I gesture weakly with my left hand, and at that I cast Telekinetic Hand and push the captain out of combat with Tock and Tick, so they get a second go.
That's a 15.
My spell save DC is 13. Okay, well, there we go.
Did Vander really do anything at all?
Benny.
Then he pokes his head out from behind the rock and kind of surveys the scene and says, I'll tell you what, Augustus, because it's your big day, I'm going to follow your guidance and stop this madness. And I just have a nice little sit down and lean against the rock, have a cigarette, let him get on with it.
Oh my god, you guys have corrupted him.
For Augustus, who's standing in the middle of literally burning massacre, glances over his shoulder and gives a vague thumb up in the direction of Benny. He's hoping that that Benny's secretly a trendsetter and this is gonna...
Let me know what you think's going to happen if they give themselves up.
Right, I'm starting to worry that Vander's going to cut all their fingers off, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it'll turn out better than last time.
Bardol.
Well, Bardol's just going to continue enjoying himself. I attack the bounder for 17.
Is a hit. Please roll for damage.
6.
Please tell me the story of how you killed the bounder.
So nonchalantly as to be disrespectful. Drawing his main hand sword, slicing at the neck of the bounder, he just continues to walk as the dead bounder falls. Then with my offhand sword, I will strike at the captain for a dirty 20.
20 is a hit. Please roll for damage.
11.
Having dispatched one bounder, wandered over to the woman, found her asleep and left her sleeping. You then double back for the captain, using your offhand longsword to slash at his back as he focuses at Tip. Now you hear another grunt of pain.
Sturdy, this one.
Augustus.
I mean, I am swimming against the tide here.
What makes you say that, buddy? Is it that they're surrounding the only conscious person left?
Augustus, shall we take this one prisoner?
Yes, Tock. Let's attempt to do that. So how do I do a grapple?
Posed strength checks over your strength against his.
Tock and Tick will both assist.
You can do it at advantage.
Oh my god, 7.
He challenges the guard to a thumb war.
Augustus steps into the melee, attempting to grapple the bounder captain, but he gets fought off and pushed away. And a series of expletives come his way from the bounder captain.
Augustus is really just upset on the man's behalf at this point. He doesn't mind the expletives, but it just feels like such a breach of the kind of noble concept of his oath that basically we're now just surrounding someone and massacring them.
Tock.
Okay, Tock and Tick are both gonna team up to basically, I say wrestle this guy to the ground, but it's more like a wardrobe falling on a human, being assisted by a second wardrobe.
Nothing worse than when wardrobes gang up on people.
Yeah.
The score to beat is 6. Please roll a strength check at advantage.
As he's doing this, Tock is again, his armor is going to have faint blue crackles over the surface, and thus adding 5, he rolls a 13.
Tock and Tick are able to restrain the bounder captain, who is struggling and angrily thrashing about. Very slowly, the sheer weight and strength of Tock and Tick manage to push him to the ground. And we are going to come out of combat at this point because you've restrained one and the other is asleep.
I turn to Otis.
Get the rope.
Yes, Vander.
Thank you, Otis.
Augustus immediately has his full attention on Vander.
Vander continues to hobble harmlessly in the direction of the group.
Augustus is worried both about Vander's predilection for torture and his obsession with padding his kill stats. Just cut off the fingers and then murder everyone who's here.
Thank you, boys.
Welcome aboard. Well fought, sir.
You gentlemen are a sight for sore eyes. Been hunting this airship for quite some time.
How do you come to know of our airship? Why were you searching for us?
Well, these bounders have been chasing me through the mountains like a common criminal. From everything I've heard about Mustang and his crew from Gearhead, it seems to me that you might be the very gentleman to get me out of this sticky wicket. Sadly, my recent crew were murdered by these disgusting scumbags in blue. Bardol kicks the captain on the floor.
Tock says, I like this one, pointing at Bardol.
You guys have incapacitated the bounder captain and you have put the shadowy woman to sleep. Vander has moved towards the woman.
I see. I believe she needs medical assistance.
Vander says as he hobbles over with the glide of a dementor about him.
Require a scalpel.
I will inspect.
And I very, very painfully take a knee as I lean down beside her and I place a hand reassuringly on her back. Turning away from the group, I cast Mind Spike.
Oh, come on now. Augustus would be super alert to this and is definitely bustling around to get over there and see what's going on.
Vander says,
There.
There. This is a rare form of interrogation, which doesn't necessarily cause pain, but takes place in the unconscious mind.
While this is going on, Bardol pulls out from his pocket of his travelling clothes a small silver case, from which he surreptitiously pulls a neatly rolled exotic cheroot, which he puts into his mouth and lights.
Augustus would definitely join him, but he's seen Vander kill before.
He catches Augustus looking at him and offers him the case.
Perhaps later, my friend.
He puts the case back in his adventuring clothes under his plate armour.
Oh my god.
He has failed.
He has failed.
So you enter her mind. You're fairly used to entering people's minds over the years with your talents. This is a mind unlike any you've ever seen before. There is a circular disc that seems to be floating in the center of a bright red electrical storm, and she is on her knees in the center of the disc with her head back, and she's screaming up at the sky. Vander, your psychic projection appears on the disc.
Good afternoon.
The hushed one is coming.
The hushed one, you say?
Vander says with interest, silkily.
You will know him soon.
He comes now?
No.
You serve him?
We all serve him.
Rather think I'm fresh out of serving anyone, but it's beside the point. Does the harsh one go by any other name?
No, not a name for your ears.
You're being rather unhelpful. We can either do this here, or we can do this in the physical world. I suggest it's in your interest to tell me everything you know now.
Vander says sweetly.
For the hushed one, I give myself. And a blade appears in her hand, and she slits her own throat.
That is upsetting.
Vander, you are back in the standard realm, and she is laying unmoving in front of you.
Before you ask, Augustus, suicide, Vander says, without explaining any further.
What do you mean, suicide, Vander? He was asleep.
I don't know how au fait you are with battles of the mind, Augustus. They are subtle in art and often result in, sadly, the giving out of one or other.
But never, Vander, I note, you.
No, I rather lack the predilection. Hard to kill, you see.
Yes.
Never mind, though.
I slap Vander on the back and say, "That's what I hear, Mustang. Hard to kill. He may look like a wretched shell of a chamois leather of a man, this mask-wearing wretch. But no, hard to kill, Mustang."
What so? But never fear, Augustus. We still have the opportunity to learn. Every day, as they say, is a school day.
As he moves towards the guard.
Vander, do you wish for this one to be slain as well?
No. I think we've seen enough deaths by misadventure.
Well, let's not say anything we can't take back now. I don't see why this fellow shouldn't get to live while all the others had to die. And for one and one for all that. And with that, I pull my longsword out and hold it to his neck.
Augustus has got his sword out too here.
I see no reason why. They are Imperial Scan after all. We've killed one or two of our friends. Why don't we leave them in a bush with the rest and carry on about our way?
Bardol's logic is unassailable.
I wish to assail it, Tock, if you let me try. Killing a defenseless man is rarely the only choice and never the right one.
I am happy to untie him.
Gentlemen, chief among the tools of the Inquisitor is time. There's no need for us to do anything hasty when we can simply wait. I suggest we tie him up, obviously take possession of his rather valuable captain's uniform, and wait.
Strip him naked and leave him here?
No. Take him back to the Sterling. I will take charge of his care.
I agree that we take him back to the Sterling, but I absolutely forbid you to take charge of his care. I will take charge of his care with Tock as my assistant.
We will all care for him, quite right.
Vander, if you move within touching distance of him, I will stick my sword into you.
I promise not to touch him, Vander says reassuringly.
That's not reassuring.
As Augustus is talking about Tock helping him with his care, you may glance over and Tock's just checking the Shadow Vanguard is dead by also slitting his throat with his sword. And he's going to basically rummage. He's going to then inspect for like any objects she has on her person.
Philosophical question for you, Tock. If you're on everyone's side, whose side are you on?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of Tock's sweetheart gets thrown around, and yet every episode he's there doing some pretty clandestine things.
Bardol watches Tock. Machine! I noticed you used that sword beautifully in battle. I didn't realize how bloody ruthless you were. I love it. Look what you did to that throat, you devil.
Indeed. I have received instruction from Vander.
I turn to Augustus and nod at Tock's actions and say,
I didn't teach him that.
I was going to say you must be some sort of war automaton, where you swing it around. Tell you, I may be the best swordsman who has ever lived, but you certainly know your way around a blade. Excellent work.
Augustus is merely focused on watching Vander and watching a bit of Bardol and even keeping an eye on Tock and trying to stay near the captain and protecting him on all sides while these Shara murderers all skulk about him.
Vander taps Augustus lightly with his cane.
Relax, Augustus. I think the violence is done for now. I enjoyed your oath, by the way. Inspirational stuff.
As I turn on my heel,
Mr. Schultz, I look forward to inviting you onto the Sterling for further conversations.
The conversations? Was it the first conversation was just an absolute blood and fire part?
for the first conversation, I then say,
I think time for some soup.
And then as I go past, I nod and say, Captain. I make my way towards the ship.
Bardol still has his sword across the neck of the bounder captain when Vander passes. He sheaves his sword and nods to Augustus and backs away.
Tick will pick up the captain to carry him back to the ship.
I really thought you were going to say Tick steps forward and slits the captain's throat.
Wears his head as a hat. Hashtag Tick's a sweetheart.
With the fight over the Shadow Vanguard dead.
Did Tock find anything on the Shadow Vanguard?
Tock did. You found 50 gold on her person.
Which he will share with the party.
As well as a signet ring. It has the insignia of...
Heron.
A lightning bolt.
Expendable. Boring.
Tock will share out the gold with a party and with Bardol Schultz.
Tremendously generous of you.
Tock, Tick and Augustus oversee the carrying of the bounder aboard the Sterling. Benny, who's really having quite a nice, pleasant day, to be honest, is just smoking a cigarette as he re-enters the ship.
Bardol stops at the bottom of the, I want to say plank.
Gangway.
Yes, welcome to Ships and Shipping.
Oh, he's in. He's so in.
We've got another nautical genius on board.
Bardol stops and looks up to Vander and asks,
Permission to come aboard, Captain?
He's not captain.
Permission granted.
fine vessel you have here, Mustang. Tell me, old dog, where did you steal her?
Quite the beauty, isn't she?
An interesting question, Vander.
Yeah.
Let's come back to this one. Where did you steal her?
I suggest a round of cheroots for all.
And Vander smoothly takes out his case of exotic cheroots.
Bardol follows and pulls one out also.
Bardol, might I ask, looking at the cheroots, had you entered the tomb? We entered what we thought was the tomb of the Wanderer, and there we found a document related to you and some exotic cheroots, and now it seems obvious to me that you must have been there before us.
Of course, you know that wasn't really the tomb of the Wanderer, don't you?
We do.
Good.
However, you also entered there, did you?
Yes, I did. I'd say it was quite an embarrassing entrance. While scurrying around the undergrowth, I found myself falling through a rather large hole. Found myself in this rather strange cavern, so I started to wander around and discovered what it was. Slipped a sleeping potion to a dastardly cat, and with things poking out of its shoulders, upsy daisy over the fence, under the what's-it, and here I was in this room with a chest. Helped myself. I dropped in a few things I didn't want, and through the little portal I went, and here we are.
And left a tithe document behind. If it was such a doddle, my good man, how did your vital document free you from the servitude of the Empire? How did that fall from your pockets?
Yes, it was tucked into my armor when I swapped it out for this glorious filigreed half-plate that I'm wearing now. But to be honest, who cares? Fuck the Empire and fuck their tides. I'll go where I want.
That would be astronomically difficult.
Why are they so keen to get you, Bardol? What you done?
Well, it seemed like such an innocuous reason, Benny. They came round, closed the pits, stopped me and the boys from rough and tumbling. Words were spoken, weapons were drawn, blood splattered, men fell. And there you are.
But as I understand it, from the locals, you've had that pit going on for ages, months, if not years.
Well, I am a 3-time Silver Sword champion, Benny, as I'm sure you're aware. However, apparently the closure is only temporary. Personally, I think Mayor Doxy Abelman was embarrassed by us, and as she saw us as a blight on her precious town, she wanted it shut before that wretched Tam Race Foundation came rolling into Slateholme.
On the plus side, after this exchange with Bardol, Augustus has a name for his journal, which is going to be Travels with People and a Dog I Don't Trust and Tock.
And it's led to this, the fighting, the violence, me having to live in the wilderness for weeks like a common animal.
Something which you appear to deeply regret, it has to be said.
Well, what can I say, Benny? I don't revel in taking life, but it is my job.
It's my job and I love it.
A fine sentiment, Vander says, and a terrible loss your upstanding group of fellow compatriots must be to you, Mr. Schultz. It does strike me, however, that you have expended a great deal of effort in finding us. That I find interesting, as I suspect you may have some further reason for making our acquaintance.
You cut to the quick of it, Vander Finnick. I hear you are that way inclined.
I nod.
Tell me, have you ever heard of the Topaz Keep?
The Topaz Keep?
Vander considers.
I believe it to be in Slateholme, the city that we were in a week ago.
I believe it to be in Slateholme too, but I think Vander has previous knowledge of Slateholme.
Okay, give me a history check at advantage.
13.
You know the Topaz Keep to be one of the largest and most impressive buildings in Slateholme. It is home to the Museum of Natural History, and it is also known for its deep vaults, wherein very valuable things are kept for very important people.
Ah, yes. Topaz Keep, a fine building, if I'm not mistaken. Exhibits aplenty as well as valuables. I believe they have one of the only full replicas of the saber-toothed meerkat there, if I'm not mistaken. What particularly takes your interest?
What it does have is a vault in the basement, belonging to that skullduggerous, easily doxy Abelman. Along with you fine fellows, are going to steal everything in it. In that vault are the plans for the steam runner, which she plans to sell to the Tam Race Foundation, right out of the hands of the gnomish people who designed and built it. The Tam Race Foundation are basically stealing it from the people of Slateholme. So we are going to steal it first.
I see. A difficult job, Vander says, looking up. A talented team you'll need. Very expensive job, if I'm any judge. This will take some thinking about.
I turn to the rest of the crew.
Gentlemen, what do you think? A job for us?
It would be a blow to the Emperor.
Steam runner returns. What say you, Augustus?
I'm not certain, my friends.
Bardol turns to Augustus, and for a moment you see his bravado slips, and he seems sincere. Augustus, is the steam runner not the creation of the gnomish people, those hard-working and industrious people of Slateholme? Is it not about to be stolen from them? More theft from those imperial dogs, bought and paid for with blood money. Should we not take the plans back and give them to the people who worked so hard to build them in the first place?
Why aren't you at Greta's door telling her this story and getting her to go and steal steam runner blueprints? Seems like the kind of thing she'd be right interested in.
I don't trust Gearhead. I'll take her money, fine, but trust, I'm afraid not.
And then you trust Vander?
Believe it or not, Benny, the few times I've heard Gearhead speaking positively about anyone, she has inevitably been talking about her Mustang.
You're correct to place your faith in our little band. Mr. Schultz, we will of course consider your generous offer, as well as you understand our part in it. There may of course be a price. You understand that, yes?
Of course. No one expects anyone to do anything for nothing. After all, here I stand in my beautiful armor, with a beautiful day song at my hip. I need nothing more. Whatever you find in there is yours to do with as you wish, with one proviso. The plans of the steam runner are given back to the people who created them. The gnomes of Slateholme. And not the Tam Race Foundation.
A job that requires chaos and disorder, you say? Feels like something that's right up our street, I think.
I find this to be acceptable.
We'll take some planning, of course.
When are the blueprints due to be handed over?
I do believe they're being handed over at the Summer Solstice Festival. So that would be, 9 days, Benny.
9 days in a captain's uniform to plan.
Vander takes a long puff on his cheroot.
Vander,
Yes, Tock.
do we not also possess 2 Bounder's uniforms that we took from the steam runner?
We do indeed, Tock. We do indeed.
Also a silver medallion from the Shadow Vanguard we killed.
We have that too, and a number of other items that I suspect may be of use. What we don't yet have is a burning consensus. I see this as a chance to sow revolution, and a chance to turn a profit. Though, of course, that isn't my primary motive.
Vander genuflects to no one in particular.
What say you, Benny, he of new abilities, and Augustus, noble, wonderful Augustus?
Benny has a sit down and a bit of a ponder. Eventually says, "Probably does seem like the thing to do, doesn't it? I think anything that might upset the Tam Race Foundation is probably a thing that I'd like."
Vander winks.
Everyone stop fucking winking.
Roguishly.
Well, hasn't Vander only got one eye? We've been here before. How does the one-eyed man wink again?
Vander opens and closes his eye, and no one knows what it means.
I make no promise to participate in this. I think we should see what we can gain from this captain. And as I am unwilling to kill a defenseless man, a question then arises about what we would do with him if we were to go and carry out this plan. Whereas we could simply leave him behind, sail away in the airship and be gone before anyone could catch us, resolving the problem of what to do with him, but also changing our location and therefore making it impossible to stay in Slateholme.
An oath is a serious thing, Augustus. I do understand that.
Yes, and you'll notice, Vander, it didn't include anything about robberies and heists.
Nor did it preclude them, but I guess that's semantics.
Perhaps I should add a line.
I think 1 oath a day is quite enough for anyone. Though I do understand you are now under certain obligations, and I will of course factor those into the planning. How's that, shipmate?
And a gnarled hand comes out.
Augustus, who's pretty convinced that Vander murdered a sleeping woman about half an hour ago, gives Vander an extremely steely gaze. Augustus does not head for his cabin. He heads for wherever the captain is, because he's now going to have to stand guard over this guy, isn't he?
You head down to the storage area at the bottom of the ship near where Tock's workshop is.
Augustus will now keep constant vigil on the door.
With Bardol Schultz welcomed aboard the Sterling, Augustus delves into the bowels of the ship with the captured captain, and the rest of you take a seat in the galley.
Come and take your weight off then, Bardol. We'll see if we can find you something to eat. Muscle up something to eat. There's some Quetzalcoatl steaks kicking about somewhere. I'll see what I can find.
Marvellous. Thank you, Benny. Yes, I am tired. That slaying takes it out of a man.
Come, Mr. Schultz, there's a seat for you by the hearth.
Vander says, taking a seat painfully himself.
Thank you, Mustang. You need a hand, old boy?
No, just the regular excruciating pain of existence.
Vander winces and reclines into his chair whilst taking a cheroot from a case.
He doesn't like to bring it up, but if pushed, he will mention the excruciating pain of existence.
Vander takes a long drag on his cheroot and doesn't respond.
Bardol sits down and joins the cherooting.
Well, this is nice, isn't it? It's good. It's quite nice to have someone new on the boat. How long were you out in the elements there, Bardol?
Felt like years, Benny, but I fear it was only a couple of weeks, perhaps. Not my natural environment, I must say. Far more used to this kind of a place, funnily enough.
Reminds me of older days.
It's a pretty ship, isn't it? Says Vander.
It is. It is. But where I'm from, they don't always fly, I must be honest. They rock on the old waves, like the old-fashioned way. But this is quite a fancy vessel indeed.
And there's a good story about how Vander came about it in there. Vander, go on, tell him the story about how you came about the airship.
Do, Mustang, do. Tell me.
Well, gentlemen, I was just thinking of the fact that the ship is powered by our first adventure, is it not, Benny, my light-fingered friend?
Oh, that was answering a question with a question.
I prefer the term statement,
says Vander.
Well, welcome aboard, Bardol. You'll find it's very much like this all the time.
I was going to say, not a lot of many questions, not so many answers. But that's okay. We're all entitled to our secrets and our past.
Oh, don't encourage him.
Vander is inclined to speak the truth after consuming poisonous alcohol distillates.
I can hold my drink, thank you very much, Tock.
He has held many drinks.
Factually correct.
It's funny you should say that, Tock, because I was thinking that perhaps we should throw a few down and really get to know one another the old-fashioned way.
Vander starts to painfully rise.
I will check down in the galley, lower decks, to see if there aren't some vintages that would be appropriate for the occasion. I'll also check on the captain, too. I'll be back in one moment.
As long as it's not creme de menthe.
Ah.
We'll all be happy. Have you tried that, Bardol? Oh, yeah, living in Slateholm, you must have.
Many nights, Benny, drunk with those glorious gnomes. It is a rather unhappy mistress in the morning, I must say, but by around about afternoon, the old head clears and ready to go again.
Vander totters down the stairs to the lower decks of the ship, calling over his shoulder,
"Try the calamari soup. It never goes off, you know."
Later on that evening, you're going to find Vander does visit, sees you there.
Augustus, I trust the captain is well.
Augustus's steely gaze appears still to be in place.
Excellent. Then I'll be on my way.
So as I turn, I say,
the fight against the Empire has to start somewhere, you know.
With plans for a steam runner, seems a small blow to strike.
From small embers, fires burn.
And with the crew of the Sterling chatting into the night, comparing battle scars. Let's end it there.
You've been listening to Dice Company's Small Embers, starring Dave Windust as Petren Oakflower, Alex Morrison as Seeksorrow, Charlie Blackadder as Vander Finnick, and Harry King as Tock, Scott Parker as the greatest swordsman who has ever lived, Bardol Schultz, with Tom Patrick as your dungeon master.
As Bardol was wandering around the ship, makes his way through the galley, he could swear from a fleeting moment that he's caught the back of a turtle.
They don't like to talk about the turtle.
He thought to himself, impossible. The boys never said anything other than chefs. Must be my imagination.
We forgot Rosalind again!
Rosalind.
We're like the mum from Home Alone. We just constantly forget.
Strange.
Thanks for listening. Please consider supporting Dice Company on Patreon, where for the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to a whole other show, Extra Roll, as well as an ad-free listening experience. The Dice Company Discord server, along with our socials, can be found on our Linktree in the show notes. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to recommend us to your friends. If you didn't like it, recommend us to your enemies. And we'll see you next time on Dice Company.